NHL.com recently ranked the top goalies in the National Hockey League, but where did Ilya Sorokin rank, and what does he need to do to get back to his earlier form after a rough year last year? We've got that and a whole lot more on today's Locked On Islanders podcast.
Your Locked On Islanders, your daily podcast on the New York Islanders, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, everybody, to the weekend edition of the Locked On Islanders podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I want to thank everyone who makes Locked On Islanders your first listen every day. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts so you can get new episodes as soon as they drop. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. As the playoffs are in our rearview mirrors, the sports stop sporting like we want them to, but this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. We've got a lot to discuss on today's show, but first, if there's something Islanders related on your mind, if you have a question, a comment, maybe a topic you'd like us to discuss on a future episode, you could email us at lockedonislanders@gmail.com. And if you leave your first name and where you're from, we're happy to mention you on the show as we discuss whatever it is that's on your mind. You could also follow the show on X at Locked On Isles, and you could follow me, Gil Martin, on X at Ice Wars, NYR VSNYI. We'll keep you up to date on all things Islanders all year long during the offseason. That includes hirings, firings, trade rumors, free agency, and the draft. Basically, if it's happening to the New York Islanders, we will discuss it here on the Locked On Islanders podcast. Today, I wanted to start off the show talking about the person who is arguably the Islanders' highest regarded player, and that is goaltender Ilya Sorokin. And look, nobody is doubting that Ilya Sorokin struggled last year, did not play typical Ilya Sorokin hockey over the course of the season. Statistically, this was by far his worst year since joining the Islanders. And it was frustrating. I don't think it was all Ilya Sorokin's fault. I think there were a lot of other reasons that Sorokin kind of stumbled. I mean, the goals against went up from 2.33 in 2022-2023 to 2.99. So that's basically an increase of, 2/3 of a goal every game. The save percentage went down from .924 in 2022-2023 to .909 in 2023-2024. Again, that's 15 percentage points lower on the save percentage. And that, again, going down from .924 to .909, .924 makes you an elite goalie. .909 makes you a very average goalie. And Sorokin just, went from being second in the Vezina Trophy voting after the 2022-2023 season to not really getting any votes to speak of this past season, and deservedly so. So to me, it was interesting to try to figure out what the goaltending rankings by NHL Network. They ranked the top 10. And I was interested to see how much this past year's off or atypically bad performance would affect Ilya Sorokin's rating. Well, okay. If last year Sorokin was not in the top 5 or 10, and the year before he finished second in the Vezina voting, he's got to land somewhere in the middle, and that is kind of exactly where he landed. So NHL.com went ranked their top 10 goalies, NHL Network, top 10 goalies right now in August of 2024. And number 10, Linus Ullmark of Ottawa. UC Saros finishes 9th. From Nashville, Jake Ottinger of the Dallas Stars is 8th. Sergei Bobrovsky of the defending Stanley Cup champion Florida Panthers, 7th. Thatcher Demko of the Vancouver Canucks in the 6th hole. And in the 5 spot, Ilya Sorokin of the New York Islanders. Who were the 4 goalies who were ahead of Sorokin in this ranking? At number 4, Boston's Jeremy Swayman, who is now definitely the number 1 goalie with Ullmark now in Ottawa. Tampa's Andrei Vasilevsky kind of surprised me that he finished 3rd, but I think he's sort of on the downslide of his career a little bit, but still, darn good goalie. In the number 2 spot, Connor Hellebuck of the Winnipeg Jets. And unfortunately for Islander fans, in the number 1 spot, Igor Shesterkin of the New York Rangers. And I got to say that I think ranking 5th right now is about right for Ilya Sorokin. You expect more from Ilya Sorokin than what we got last year. And yet, in spite of Sorokin's struggles, the Islanders still not only made the playoffs, but actually finished 3rd in the Metropolitan Division. Now, again, Islanders have not won a playoff round in the last 3 seasons. Have won a grand total of 3 playoff games in the last 3 seasons. But I've always asked this question, where would the Islanders be if Ilya Sorokin was not good? If they just had middle-of-the-road goaltending? And you got to add the fact that Semyon Varlamov is also, if you're ranking backup goalies, he's going to be in the top 10, maybe even top 5 of backup goalies in this league. Where would they be without, Sorokin? Not anywhere good. And, would they make the playoffs without the excellent goaltending they've gotten historically? No. And it even goes, before Sorokin and Varlamov, they went with, Tomas Greiss and Robin Lehner, and they've had some really solid goaltending, especially in the Lou Lamoriello era. And that shouldn't surprise anyone who knows hockey history, because Lou Lamoriello builds his team from the goal out whenever he can. And all you got to do is go back and look at those Stanley Cup winning teams in New Jersey, where Martin Brodeur was the linchpin, the foundation of all of those, not just cup winning teams, but teams that were contending for a cup year after year after year, because they had great goaltending, solid, strong defense, and then just enough scoring kind of to get the job done. And I think 5 in the league right now is about right. And if he has a bounce back season, if Sorokin returns to his previous form that we've seen from him, not just with the Islanders, but in the KHL as well, I think we're talking about a major, he can go from 5 to 2, or even, 3, 2, 1. He can be considered the best goalie in the league if he really puts together an outstanding season. Could Sorokin win a Vezina Trophy at some point in his career? I think he can. He came close just 2 years ago, came in second in the voting. But clearly, and everydayers are aware, we have discussed, this Islanders roster is not very different from how it was a year ago. You're basically, the changes on this roster are Patrick Waugh for a whole year as coach. Not a roster change, but it is a change for the team. You certainly have the addition of Anthony Duclair, and then the signing of Maxim Siplakov, which, again, is kind of a wild card. And then it's more or less the same roster. I mean, as of right now, no Matt Martin, no Cal Clutterbuck, but, this roster isn't that different. Now, maybe they'll be healthier this year. A lot of defensemen miss significant time, but the key to improvement, in addition to getting a little more production from Siplakov and Duclair than, some of the guys that are not going to be back in the lineup, the key to improvement is for the goaltending, and specifically for Ilya Sorokin, to return to his previous form and once again be worthy of being a top 5 or even maybe better goaltender in the National Hockey League. But what will it take for Ilya Sorokin to once again be an elite goaltender? We're going to discuss that and a whole lot more coming up. Plus, for our Islanders' birthday of the day, a player who played for the Rangers in the Stanley Cup playoffs against the Islanders in 1979, and then joined the Islanders for the last 3 of their 4 straight Stanley Cups. We're talking about an offensive defenseman who really helped the Islanders. See if you can guess who that is. All of that and more coming up on today's Locked On Islanders podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by your friends at eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available for U.S. customers. Thank you for making Locked On Islanders your first listen of the day. For your second listen, enjoy the Locked On NHL podcast. Locked On NHL provides you with a national perspective on all things NHL every day, with national experts and local insight on every team in the league. It's available on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts, and it's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So what are some of the keys for Ilya Sorokin to become that elite goalie again? I'm going to start with the obvious. He needs his confidence back. And I think maybe confidence wasn't exactly the right word. I don't think he ever stopped believing in himself, but I think he was mentally and physically tired by the middle part of last year. When Semyon Varlamov went down with an injury and Sorokin had to start, 14 games in a row, played in 15 or 16 games in a row, I think that took a big toll on him. And that, combined with the fact that the Islanders, especially in the first 46 or 7 games of the year under Lane Lambert, were giving up far too many shots. And far too many of those shots were high danger opportunities. I think it all added up to take a toll on Ilya Sorokin. And look, these guys are human. And yes, they are elite athletes. And you expect them to be in shape and be prepared for some of these eventualities, but facing 35, 40 shots a night, and then playing in 15 roughly games in a row mid-season, I think that combination just wore Ilya Sorokin down a little bit by the end of the season. And I think, his confidence, while I think exhaustion was a big reason for the problems, I think his confidence did wane a little bit. And he had trouble with pucks that in the past he wasn't having trouble with. So there's a new goalie coach, working with that coach who, by the way, one of the coaches they hired worked with him in the KHL. But working with this new goalie coach to get the confidence back, to work on his angles, because he didn't always play his angles the way he used to last year. And just, again, getting beat low glove side, kind of under his armpit, kind of handcuffing him. I think that happened a lot last year. Improving in that area as well will make a difference. And part of that is that the Islanders defense in front of Ilya Sorokin is going to have to play better than they did a year ago. No doubt about it. But you look through the defense, and, a lot of the better defensive defensemen missed a lot of time and didn't play as well as they normally do. Some of them played through injuries. Look, you say what you want about Scott Mayfield. Did not have a good season. You know how many games he was actually healthy for? One. Broke his ankle in the season opener and, played 40 more games. Here's a guy who is essentially a defensive defenseman who didn't have the strength and agility that he normally had, and therefore, had difficulty making positive contributions to the team. Getting him back in the lineup, getting him healthy will help. Adam Pelech and Ryan Pollock each only played 58 games. That means they missed 24 games each, and both of them were hampered by injuries part of the time they were in the lineup. That has to change. You want to talk about our seventh defenseman right now, Samuel Bolduc. Got to play with more confidence if and when he's in the lineup. So right there, you're talking about, the only one of the defensive defensemen who was kind of healthy for almost every game was Alexander Romanov, who only missed one game all year. And by the way, in case you were wondering who led the Islanders in plus minus, Alexander Romanov, plus 23. That's 11 more than Noah Dobson, who was often his partner defensively. So getting the team to play a little better in front of Ilya Sorokin will help. Also, what will help is either a combination of a healthy Semyon Varlamov all year as the backup, so that it's like a 50 to 32 split in starts, let's say, maybe even 48, starts to 46, whatever it is. Well, let's go more with 50-32, okay? You get that kind of division, that helps. And then having confidence in the third goalie in your organization, I think, will make a big difference. When Ken Appleby was the backup last year, it clearly hurt this team. Well, Appleby's not back. Marcus Hogberg has been signed. And while I don't want Marcus Hogberg to be my number one goalie right now, no offense to him, knowing that if either Sorokin or Varlamov go down for a week or two, that you wouldn't be afraid to play Marcus Hogberg for, let him start every second or third game for a week or two. That will go a long way, I think, toward helping Sorokin not face, not wear himself down physically. And then add to it Patrick Roy, who will have a chance to implement his system from day one of training camp. The players, and again, most of this roster are players who are familiar with Roy. Even Anthony Duclair, who didn't play for the Islanders last year, played for Roy in juniors, knows how the coach, knows what the coach expects of his players, how he goes about things. You will see, I think, that Roy's emphasis on smarter defense, better positioning, slowing down opposing players so they don't enter the offensive zone with speed and space, and just simpler, smarter ways to clear the puck out of your own zone, which Islander fans know has been an issue for this team for so long. That all those things should combine to cut down the shots against. So if you get a healthier defensive core, a backup goalie or third goalie who you have confidence in if either your starter or your backup gets hurt, Patrick Waugh's system for a whole year starting in training camp, and Ilya Sorokin working with his new goalie coach to get his confidence back. All four of those are major reasons why Sorokin can and should return to form. He's not an older goalie, okay? Ilya Sorokin is still in his 20s, which is more than you could say for a lot of New York Islanders players these days. Ilya Sorokin will not turn 30 until next August. So he's 29 years old for a goalie that is still your prime. And when you look at his numbers in the KHL, yeah, they were off the charts, ridiculous when you have, save percentages of 953, 931, 940, 935. Those are off the charts numbers. You got to figure that this 909 save percentage from this past year was just not the normal output that you're going to get from Ilya Sorokin. So overall, there are reasons to believe that Sorokin bounces back and returns to elite form. And I think that more than almost any other factor, based on the fact that this roster is mostly the same as the team that's been stuck in the muddy middle for a while now, you need that component in order to make this team better and to move them up from the muddy middle to anything better than that. We'll see if Sorokin can do it. I think it's more likely than not that Sorokin can return to form and at least will be better than he was a year ago. And then it's up to the team to be better around him. All right, we have got more to get to on today's show. The Athletic polled fans on how confident they are in their team's front offices. We'll talk about where the Islanders finished and why. We've got that, plus our Islanders birthday of the day, and a lot more coming up on today's Locked On Islanders podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. I love sports. I love them so much I never want them to stop. But with the NHL and NBA playoffs far in our rearview mirror now, we get fewer games, and the sports aren't sportsing like I want them to. But FanDuel lets me keep the sports going whenever I want. All I have to do is open the app and dream up bets anytime I'm in the mood. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long at FanDuel.com. Hey, you got baseball right now. If you're a Met fan, Yankee fan, plenty of things to bet on there. Preseason football is back. You've got football futures as well, and the summer games in Paris. So hockey futures, plenty to check out the odds for at FanDuel.com. Head over to FanDuel.com and start making the most out of your summer. FanDuel, official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. Thank you for making Locked On Islanders your first listen today. Now go check out the Locked On NHL podcast, where the season never ends. We're providing national expertise with a local perspective. You can find the link to Locked On NHL in the description, so you don't need to search. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So the Athletic, every summer, they rank confidence in every NHL team's front office. And, well, for the second year in a row, I hate to say, where the Islanders rank. Now, this is a fan thing. So the question that the Athletic asks, how confident are you in your team's front office? And again, this is not the experts speaking. This is the fans, not just Islander fans voting on this, but also fans across the league. Islanders, they basically ranked teams in 6 different areas and then had a total. So they were roster building, cap management, draft and develop, trading, free agency, and vision. And then they were grades for both from the public in general and then that team's fan base. Now, the Islanders' overall grade from both the public and the fan base was a D minus. Roster building, both public and the Islanders fan base gave the Islanders a D. Cap management, the public, general public, a D. The Islanders fan base, a D minus. In all 4 of those categories, roster building, public and fan base, cap management, public and fan base, Islanders were 31st in the league. Draft and develop, the public ranked the Islanders a D minus, which was 30th. D minus also from the Islanders fan base ranked them dead last in the league. Trading, this was interesting. The general public gave Lou a D plus, ranking 27th in the league, but the Islanders fans gave him a C, 23rd in the league. I think the Bo Horvat, Alexander Romanov, those trades kind of paid off for the Islanders in some ways, and that helped the Islanders raise the grade. Free agency, the public gave, again, a D plus, 29th in the league, a C minus by Islander fans, and probably the recent signing of Anthony Duclair had something to do with that. Vision, both the public and the Islanders fan base ranking the Islanders with a D minus. The Islanders fan base had them ranked 31st in the league, the public 32nd. And so overall, the public ranked the Islanders at a D minus, 32nd last. Fan base for the Islanders, also a D minus, but they at least got to 31st. And again, overall, I think there are reasons to both, be a little supportive of Lou, because the Islanders have made the playoffs in 5 of the 6 seasons he's been a coach, the GM rather, and they've won at least a round in 3 of those 5. But there are reasons for the way he builds his roster and some of the terrible contracts he's handed out, and with no trade clauses and 7-year deals for, third pair defensemen and bottom 6 forwards that lead you to shake your head. So here we are, but that's where the Islanders ranked according to The Athletic, and fan confidence not very high as of right now. Time now for our Islanders birthday of the day, and basically Saturday will be the 68th birthday of former Islanders defenseman Mike McEwen. Now, McEwen, 6'1", 195, more of an offensive defenseman out of Hornpain, Ontario. 3rd-round pick of the Rangers in 1976, 7th-round pick of the Toronto Toros of the old WHA as well. Made his NHL debut for the Rangers in 76-77, was with the Rangers in 78-79 when they upset the Islanders in the Stanley Cup semifinals, then got traded to the Colorado Rockies, and then joined the Islanders late in the 80-81 season in the deal that sent Chico Resch to the Colorado Rockies. But how impactful was Mike McEwen? In 17 playoff games in 1981, 6 goals, 14 points. Add 3 goals, 7 points in 3 goals, 10 points rather in 15 playoff games in 81-82, along with a 49-point season in 73 games, and you could see the value of Mike McEwen. He gave the Islanders an offensive defenseman behind Dennis Potvin, and it really, I think, benefited Q, which was one of his nicknames, not having opposing defenses say, hey, we've got to shut down Mike McEwen. No, they had to shut down Dennis Potvin, and that left McEwen usually not playing against the top checking line of the opposition. One of his better games as an Islander, a very memorable game, but people may not remember Mike McEwen's role in it. April 13th, 1982, 5th and deciding game of the Patrick Division semifinals between the Islanders and the Pittsburgh Penguins at the Nassau Coliseum. The goalies, Michel Dion for Pittsburgh, Billy Smith for the Islanders. Bob Nystrom got the Islanders on the board first. Mike McEwen and Bob Bourne with the helpers midway through the first period, but less than a minute later, the Penguins score their first of 3 straight goals to take a 3-1 lead. They took that lead into the third period. But then Mike McEwen on the power play with 5 minutes and 27 seconds left pulls the Islanders to within a goal at 3-2. Mike Bossy and Brian Trottier the assists. And then John Tonelli ties it with 2:21 left in regulation. And then you go to overtime with the dynasty on the line. John Tonelli scores the game winner 6 minutes and 19 seconds into overtime. Who got the assist? Bob Nystrom and Mike McEwen. So for McEwen in this game, he ends up with a goal, 3 points, so 2 assists, 7, count them, 7 shots on goal, which tied him with Tonelli and Mike Bossy for the team lead. Islanders outshot, believe me, outshot the Penguins 47-21 and escaped with a 4-3 win. Went on to win their 3rd Stanley Cup out of 4, but that may have been the closest the dynasty came to ending, and Mike McEwen with his 3-point night played a big role in that. So Mike McEwen is our Islanders' birthday of the day. I want to thank everyone who makes Locked On Islanders your first listen every day. Everydayers, we're back on Monday with all the latest Islanders news, notes, and happenings. We're going to talk also a little bit about Bo and Barzy on Monday, so make sure you join us for that. Have a great weekend, everybody. Stay safe. And, of course, let's go Islanders.